A lovely good evening to you, my cherished viewers, and a happy new week to you. Welcome to your favorite evening talk show right here on MX24 TV, The Dish. My name is Oforiwaa, your host, and of course, we are coming to you live from our studios at number 7 Oleander Street, East Legon in Accra. I promised you that this season is going to be exciting, it's going to be very interactive, and yet again, something interesting happened. Someone drew my attention to it in my DM over the week on Instagram, saying that now we have men sitting in my studio on my sets. Initially, we had all women, right? But now, of course, the men have played with us. So, yeah, we are trying to include them because it's a world of inclusivity, right? So today's conversation promises to be yet again educative, interactive, and of course impactful. This is a very interactive show, so be part of the conversation by sending in your comments, your reactions, and your opinions to any of our social media platforms at MX24GH with the hashtag The Dish. And also you can send your comments, your opinions, and reactions to our WhatsApp number on your screen. Tonight we are discussing bullying in schools. This is a topic that we talk about every now and then. A lot of people shy away from it, and other people are of the opinion that, oh, it's a thing, everybody has to go through it. But this affects many children, especially adolescents in schools and around the world. And this happens in it takes different forms. It can happen in the workplace, it can happen at school, it can happen in the community, in the society, at home, and even in churches. So, like I said, it can take many forms, including the physical, verbal, emotional, and have a very long-lasting effect on victims. Tonight, we are discussing bullying in the studios, the negative impact it has, how we can do away with it in the society, and how we can nurture our children to be more empathetic to other people rather than being bullies to them, right? So in the studio tonight, we are joined by amazing guests. Two will be joining us via Zoom, and at the appropriate time, I'm going to introduce them to you. But in the studio with me, directly seated to me, is the beautiful Amma Krampa, who is the founder and host of Extra Old Women Show. Hi, Amma. Good evening. Hi. And welcome to The Dish.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Next to her, we have the one and only startup comedian, who is Obi Amponsa. When I say, in fact, he's a man of many hats, right? But tonight, we will choose to go with a counselor for some shaggy reasons, and also a stand-up comedian. Yeah. Hi, Obi.
Hi.
Good to have you.
Good to
I like the fact that you guys are complimenting each other with the colors of your dresses.
Let your viewers know it wasn't planned.
Did you no memo at all?
No, none at all.
Okay.
I actually thought it was pink. You guys, it took you guys.
So you like pink?
I do like the color pink.
It's good because we say real men wear pink.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. You never knew?
I see.
Are you not a real man?
Now I know.
Before you were not sure?
No, I know I'm a real man, but you know, certain characteristics make you believe yourself the more.
Oh, wow. Great. So it's good to have you, lady and gentlemen, in the studio.
It's good to be here.
Right. And at the appropriate time, we're going to be joined by Dr. Evelyn Owusu-Roberts, who will join us via Zoom. Last week, she was with us. She's a clinical psychologist, so we're going to get from her aspect as well. And then Yao Sompa would also join us via Zoom. He happens to be a lawyer, so we go into that dimension as well and see if you can even sue anybody who bullies you. On social media, everybody is being bullied at any point in time. Sometimes I read your comment section and I see a lot of negativities.
Yeah.
But then I like the fact that you're able to get past it. All that is a part of bullying. But then I am of the belief that cowards are the ones who sit behind their screens and then type gibberish or try to bully somebody on the other side of the screen. So, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know how you feel about bullying at all, but to relate this, to make this more relatable, I believe that we all went to high school.
Yeah, I did.
Boarding or day?
I went to a boarding school. It was a mixed school.
Okay, how about you, Obi?
Oh, yeah, I've been in the boarding school since primary 4.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Your parents didn't want you at home? They're too troublesome.
My dad was a civil servant, and they'll be transferring him to different places in the Bunga-Halfen region. So he decided to find a permanent place for us.
So you don't have to go through the movement. Yeah. Okay, that's a good thing. Okay, how about you, Amma? Did you enjoy your boarding days? Were you a bully or were you bullied?
Look at me. I can't bully. I was the one that was getting a lot of the bully.
You
Oh,
can't
yeah.
bully.
I can be, right? I'm too cute to be.
I see.
No, that was just a joke. But no, I wasn't a bully at all. But right from the moment I landed on that campus.
Mm-hmm. What school? Do you mind sharing the name?
Of course, I don't mind. The name is Mando Secondary School.
Okay.
Ikwe School. That's fine. And when I landed there, it was, I mean, I'm from Accra. I come from that part, but I was, born and bred here. And when I landed, the seniors were like, they thought some Dada Babi has landed. So they were all like, I want her to be my daughter. I want her to be my daughter. It was scary. And fortunate for me, the girls' prefect came and said, I want her.
Okay.
So she took me in.
So she saved you?
She saved me, but that made things worse because then now they hated me. I'm the girls' prefect school daughter. They can't touch me. But what if your mommy is not around?
Okay.
So it was like they pack it up, and when she's not in, either at home or she's not well, that is where I get a lot of bullying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, so I asked this because recently there's been a trending video of a student who, a Disadel College student, two students for that matter, one subjecting the other to some sort of physical abuse, you know, or choking. You know. If it was a man and a woman, it would have been seen in a different light. But you, like, choking somebody from the back could mean a lot of things to people. But in this instance, it wasn't fair. And I realized that he only let him go after he had hit his face against the bed. And then instantly there was a swelling. Of course, this incident happened in June, but we just got to know about it a week ago. And so these things happen in our schools every day, right? Who do we fault for these things? Do we blame parents for bringing up their children the wrong way? Do we blame teachers for not keeping keen eyes on the students? Or do we blame the students themselves? And these people, it wasn't even a situation of a senior and a junior. They were the same mates. They were mates. Yeah, apparently they were in the same class.
Is that a senior?
Yes.
It's interesting.
So imagine having your age mate or your colleague bully you this way. Obi, I'll start off with you. Who is to blame for something like this when we see them? Parents, teachers, or the children themselves?
It's the system. The system of boarding schools in Ghana is it's a bit messy. You know, there's this story of an experiment that was done. I think it was about 4 monkeys were put in a room, and then they hung a banana on one of the trees in the room.
Okay.
And the first monkey that tried to pluck the banana, anytime he tried plucking it, it would initiate some kind of reaction that would make the other monkeys very uncomfortable.
Okay.
And so once he comes down, they'll beat him so that he doesn't climb it anymore. And it became a standard amongst them, the 4 of them, that nobody would climb, though there was banana, because whoever did that, it resulted in discomfort. Okay. It got to a point where they would take 3 monkeys from the place and then bring 3 new monkeys who have no idea
what happens
yes,
there.
And the resident monkey would warn them that,
don't try.
Don't try.
Okay.
Now the resident monkey leaves, and they bring, now it's new monkeys coming, but these ones don't know why they shouldn't even climb the banana. But they have accepted that is the standard. You understand? Climbing it has some effect, which nobody understands. But
even though they had no experience.
Exactly. So the system for boarding houses in Ghana is set up in a way that, like, once you enter, you're a junior, and then you need to submit to a certain senior, and then this senior seems to have some power over you by virtue of him going to school earlier before you. You understand? And it's like a standard there. Back in the days when I was in the boarding house, primary 4, we had homos night. I don't know if they still do it, where they like paint their students in some way, make us go around the campus naked and all, you know, all which was telling of bullying. You understand? Nobody wants to walk around naked in the boarding house. But these were systems that have been set. So we had our seniors, we had Form 3s, Form 2s, and then Form 1s. You had no right to complain or anything because you would also get into that system later. You would be a senior. And so from how you are brought up is how you'd also manifest this stuff. So
Okay.
bullying is a thing in boarding houses. It is, and the ones we get to see are the ones that are recorded.
Okay, great. So my question was, if who is to be blamed?
The system,
You don't think
the
it has to
school.
do with the teachers, the parents, or even the upbringing of the child in any way?
Upbringing. We all have our bad sides that
Okay.
come to play, even if whether we are in boarding houses or not. The system of boarding houses in Ghana is
you
set
just
up in
adapt
a
to
way
it?
that once you go, you need a school mother.
Or
It's,
father?
yes, school mother who says some school mothers convert their school daughters into lesbianism. In this case, have no say over it, which is also another form of bullying we may want to talk
Sure,
about. You understand?
sure.
So this case do not, and it's difficult to complain to the senior housemaster or your housemaster because he is used to that system as well. So that system of senior and junior and whatever the senior says, the junior has to sub. That is what causes that. If I don't have that right to, if I get away with bullying for a while, it
definitely
becomes a
keep
thing.
doing it.
Yes, because they get away with it, that's how it becomes a thing.
Okay, Amma, do you agree? Because I believe that if you're brought up the right way, you're taught to love people, to be empathetic towards people, right? When you go into an environment where it's all negativity and violence, you will try to start up something good. Or even if you can't corrupt every other person or even influence every other person around you, you will try to uphold the values that have been instilled in you from home.
Have you heard of the saying that if you go to Rome, you do what Romans do?
Should it always be the case?
You cannot not do what Romans do when you're in Rome. Rome is
Okay.
bigger than you. The school is bigger than you. The system has been in existence for years. Some schools have been around for almost a century. Some schools have been around. So you go there and, like Obi was saying, it's the system. But my point is, who regulates the system?
Right.
The administrators. So the system is there. Maybe 50 years ago, it was like that. It was like that. But then you can say that my tenure as a house or headmistress or headmaster, I'm putting my foot down that this has to stop. And you can put measures in place. It won't automatically stop, but it will reduce. When people are being punished for that, then there could be some kind of deterrence. But like the moment you get there, it's like a system you're inculcated
the system
in.
is
I'm saying I met mine right at the door. Right at the door. And you see, I even got punished for my age. I got punished for my age. They asked my age and I said I was 14 years, and I was 14. But
You say you were lying?
I looked bigger than 14. Right there, I was punished, even before I was allocated a bed. So it starts from there. And for me, being in a boarding school changed my life so much negatively that I am not taking any of my kids to a boarding school in Ghana. I won't, unless they're in a university, because I lost my virginity at the boarding school without my consent.
Oh,
My parents don't know this. I'm saying this for the very first time.
wow.
Without my consent, because I was
Sorry.
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 that's-
he was bullying me all the time.
It was a mixed school.
It was a mixed school, and he was my senior, and everybody thought he liked me. I was so naive. I didn't know anything about that.
It happened in class.
No, it didn't.
Okay,
happen.
let's
Okay.
not go. I
Let's
see how
breathe. Let's all
emotional it's
breathe.
making you. So sorry, we had to
Let's
take you
all
there.
breathe.
But okay. So
Now I think my
negatively,
counselor thing should come into
I think at this
Let's
point
all
we need
take a
that.
deep breath.
But then, so it's sad. Aside issues like this, right? So I read a press statement that said from the school that the headmaster, the senior housemaster of that house of the boys, had been suspended as well.
Yeah.
Because according to him, he found out what had happened between them, but they lied and said that they were playing and one got injured. And at the back of my mind, I'm like, you got injured this match playing. What did he do next? So this incident, we are not going to dwell solely on it, but just to pick up a thing or two, then we move on to generalize the whole conversation. These boys were both suspended, as well as the senior housemaster, right? But then after investigation, the victim was called back to school. And I hear they are in their final year, about to write their exams. So should I say the culprit is the one who is now still on suspension and is going to stay home and would be escorted to come and write his final exam, or would not even be permitted to write the final exam.
He shouldn't.
The stories are diverse.
Yeah,
like you're hearing this
all
from
over
here.
the place.
Yes. So do you think it's in the right? And if the system is what should be blamed, why has the senior housemaster been suspended as well?
He's part.
How?
He's a strong part of it.
Of the system?
Yeah,
Okay.
for you see, if it's not enabling, we wouldn't encourage it. Like, we wouldn't indulge in it. Like, as students, if we realize that we all need to be at prep at 7, we go to prep at 7. You understand? And the senior housemaster is taking care of that. There are times that you see housemasters walking around the houses and they can hear students getting lashed.
And they don't care.
They don't care. You understand? They've accepted that form of discipline by seniors to juniors. And when you allow that, it could get out of hands, because these are just students who are there to learn. And for some reason, by virtue of which class they find themselves in, they are allowed to have certain power over students who are below them. You understand? And that's it. They don't have any training or and so what they do could get out of hand. You see how the guy was choking there. He didn't even know it was getting worse. He slammed the kid's head and all. And that's what happens when you don't. There are ones that even when you monitor, you may lose sight of. But the housemaster is he's to be blamed as much as the kid. My only issue was when I heard the victim was also being punished.
Yeah, but now he's been called back to school.
Yeah,
he's back in school.
Yeah, because victim shouldn't be. The people were saying that because the kid sent a phone to school.
I was actually going to go to that.
Yeah, deserves to It's just like and they said he didn't report it.
Right.
He should have reported it. It's like telling a rape victim.
Okay, so for those who haven't seen the video, it's quite disturbing. That's the video playing on the screen. And if that had happened to my brother,
oh my God,
that boy, hey, okay.
But there's a lot happening like that we don't see because it's not captured.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, a lot.
Okay, now my head aches.
A lot keeps happening.
So this conversation about mobile phones, we know it's prohibited in schools.
Is it?
We all took phones to school. You can't tell me you didn't take phones.
I didn't. I was such a good girl, you know.
You don't look like a good girl. But
I said I was.
Okay, was. Great. I like that. The honesty in there.
How do good girls look?
I think,
yes. How do we look?
They look like
Do you look like a good girl?
They look like you. Okay. Fair girls can be good, eh?
That's
not
fine.
exactly.
All right.
But no, I didn't say fair girl. She said.
You affirmed it.
So this conversation about not taking phones to school, we know sometimes there are even senior house mistresses or masters who know that students have phone, but then they don't keep it with the students. It's kept with the teachers. If you need to call a parent or you need something, you go take the phone, you call. And this happens with the affluent families, the DBs and all of those people, or even some of the students who serve the mistresses. They can even borrow their phones. Or they can even, I was charging my phone in a mistress's house because I was cleaning her place. And she'll come and see each other and she'll be like, my phone? I'm like, madam. She understands, like, code. If there's going to be an inspection, I go and keep it at her place. Madam Gloria, big shout outs to you. Hi. So, yeah, in that regard.
Is she still madam?
Oh, yeah, she's still madam.
Oh, I see.
She's doing it for life.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, these things we say that, oh, it's frowned upon. But low-key, the system knows that the students are bringing it in. The teachers know. Sometimes they seize it, you come and settle them, they give it back to you, right? So how do we now fault the kids? And just like you said, the system is a system they came to meet.
Yeah.
Maybe in Form 1, first term, second term, you can't have a phone. Third term going into second year, you can have a phone because you're actually climbing the ladder, right? How then do we fault a student for bringing a phone to school? And these people happen to actually be final year students, if I'm not mistaken. Why are we now faulting them? why do we want to turn a blind eye to the whole situation and make it seem like we didn't know or we do not know that this is ongoing?
That's the hypocrisy of Ghanaians. That's the typical hypocrisy of Ghanaians, and it transcends every barrier: politics, schools, leadership, even amongst our own selves. We see things happening, and we try to be ignorant of it, and then it gets out of hand, and we're like, hey, is this what is really happening? Meanwhile, we know, you understand. It's evident in all, like recently we saw a school flooded, a GHS school. It had like streams
and
of
the students
water.
were actually
and the students were there. We know it's going on there. There are students who are stranded but when these are captured, then it becomes a whole public issue. So it's a matter of hypocrisy. These kids are using phones. You understand? And I don't understand why. If when we see them using it, we try to act like we didn't use it even for us before.
Ourselves.
You understand? And we are the ones in the helms of affairs now. I think if anything at all, the allowance should be done because we know it's happening.
Right.
The law is that don't bring phones to schools. But in this age, in this current Gen Z setup developing technology, you can't tell a kid not to have a mobile gadget. That kid will be fidgety and like he can't even focus.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that there should be an allowance for
to some extent,
to some extent, because when they come home they are using it. Maybe in class they are not allowed to use it, but they should be allowed to have these phones. It's about time. You know, back in the day when we were growing up, we were told that students are not supposed to braid their hairs, like, Chautina Fabra school, like that is the standard. But we are seeing changes now. We are seeing Rasta guys being admitted in senior high schools. So I think it's a whole discussion that needs to happen for the education, the GS or the curriculums we are in. Because these phones are important. They really help these kids to learn as well. If you want something on ChatGPT, it's so easy and understandable.
But they abuse it. For me,
that's the problem.
I think
so just regulate it.
No,
the fact that people abuse technology doesn't mean you stop using it.
Unless you say that you take the phone to get a software programmer to block certain sites. Other than that, I would say no, because when I was in school, I mean, this is to the telcos. We had what is it called? We had a telephone, a phone booth. And we used to queue to go and, make calls. And those of us that, when I got bad, from the beginning I was in, when I got bad, 12 o'clock midnight, that's the time you wake up and then you go and stand there because he's going to call, because you can have the free night calls era those times. I'm saying that the telcos can go back to have their phone booths on campuses.
Right. They still do.
Are they operational? I don't know.
They're not patronizing it. They won't.
And so I'm against phones
because children like privacy.
Yeah, they won't go and queue. Those days are gone.
I'm against phones.
We should get.
See, some of the reason that we couldn't wait to come back home when it's vacation or midterms is the shows that we missed. Well, for me, it was some of the programs. But now they have their cell phones. They're watching all the BB Niger, everything on their phone. They don't miss home. So the school becomes like an escape for them. So those that are like bad boys and girls on quotes, that's where they go and live their second lives. I had a friend, I knew some girls on campus. When she's coming home, her check is different. When she's coming to school, it's different. So she has a check she wears home and a check that she wears back on campus. But then she has the one she wears on campus, very short and skimpy. So she lives two separate lives. And she had a mobile phone. So I had a lot of conversations. During, time for sleeping. She's going to tell me about her experiences, her escapades with her boyfriends. And I got so curious.
Was she a senior?
She wasn't. She was my mate. But she was like far experienced already before coming to the school. And I'm telling you that having the cell phone contributed to her lifestyle, because she used to like book dates with these men.
But you think even with these children, they don't know about these things already, and whether or not they have the phones with them on campus, they can't do these things.
They can do it, but then we are speeding it up for them with a cell phone. She can easily text somebody You know, it easily takes, hey, let's meet up here, jumping walls, you know, living, running away from campus, because she's communicating with the outside world. I think we should just isolate, let the school be for learning. So like I'm saying,
but learning is done on phones, yo.
But you cannot regulate.
What you are saying,
you can't regulate where they go and where they do not go.
Yeah, but you're looking at the negative sides.
There are a lot of positivity in there.
Now let's look at the positive. But
they will abuse it, Obi.
Everybody abuses. Water can be abused.
Go and do your abuse. Go and abuse at home.
Regulate
but the school, because we make it very hard for the administrators to really you know, regulate the children. The moment we say, Monfa phone and bra, even if we get software programmers, or even if we give them specific kind of phones for school where they can go to other sites, they will still find a way. Do you understand? So I'm saying, let's make it easier for the house masters, headmistresses to really help us control our children. Because around that age, they are still kids. Gen Z or not, they are still kids. We need to put some control on them.
Fortunately, we've been joined by lawyer Sompa via Zoom. So we're going to speak to him, and then we'll find out from him what can be done. And is bullying an offense? Can you even sue someone for it? Good evening to you, lawyer.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us.
It's really an honor to join you.
Great. So tonight we are discussing bullying, right, in schools. First and foremost, I would want to find out, is it an offense? Can it be described as an offense? If so, is it capital? Or is it capital and corporate or capital? Corporal. Wait.
Let him give you the terms.
Give me the terms before I embarrass myself about this whole thing.
No, there's no embarrassment about this. Okay. I think that I'm actually enjoying the conversation. Maybe let me have a view on the phone, and then I'll just
please do so.
Into the conversation. I mean, phones have become such a part of our lives. But we all understand phone addiction is a thing, right? You know, and that there are real data to suggest that if it's possible, before a formative year of a child, maybe even before 7 or 8, it would have been probably better not to expose them at all. What we, however, have noticed is that many parents will give their child the phone to shut them up. And so when they are throwing all the tantrums, the easiest thing is to give them the phone. And so by the time they get to 12, 13, 14, when they are in high school, it's almost impossible to detach them from the phone because that's what they've known, and that's how they've been trained to keep quiet and to have focus. I remember when I was in high school, there was somebody who used to wake up at dawn to play Nintendo video game because he had a Game Boy. He was so addicted that he would wake up when everybody is learning, he would just play his game. And so we understand the streams of the addiction, but we also understand the uses of it. And we know how important it can be for communication, for learning, you know, for social interaction, for self-expression and all of that. So there's a range that needs to be managed, particularly by adults, because the assumption is that when he's a child, less than 12 years, primarily incapable of telling right and wrong. So even in law, when you're less than 12 years, we have what we call your doli incapax, which means that you're incapable of committing a crime because you're actually incapable of telling the difference between wrong and right. All right. And so anybody less than 12 is actually incapable of knowing what is right from wrong. But anytime before 12 till they are actually adults, in Ghana, a child is up to 18. In other places, the contracting age is about 21. So whether your view is 18 or 21, again, we have a doctor, even though he's more of a comedian than a doctor. And this is with all the... you know, I'm sure they will tell us that in brain development, a teenage brain, in terms of how his frontal or the part of the brain that is supposed to be responsible for thinking is less developed. So teenagers need a lot of guidance and needs a lot of moderation.
Okay.
Having said that, is bullying a crime? assault is a crime. When you assault somebody, that is a crime.
Okay.
And bullying, in many sense, if you read a text of the law and how it defines assault, it can actually be an assault. And so, to the extent that your what we call assault and battery, whether you're touching them or you're putting them in fear and trepidation of their life, what to the extent that it is defined in law as an assault, you may actually be guilty of an offense, and it is not capital. If capital is a thing, it is a misdemeanor, as the law says.
Okay.
In ranges of law, we have misdemeanor. Well, technically, is supposed to be sort of one of your call it misbehaviors, if that's the right word.
Right.
For which you can actually be found up to 3 years, which is sort of the lowest of all some sort of crimes.
Wow.
So misdemeanor can take you up to 3 years. So that's in I don't know if that's a good overview, but I'm actually very happy to engage on the conversation.
Yes, it is. And so in relation, I don't know if you've seen the trending video of the student, the Adisadel College students, the two young guys. If you've seen that, in this instance, if the victim is to file a complaint, right, to report the case, can it be taken on? Can the culprit be sued? And just like you said, there's a jail term, the least being 3 years, right? Is this possible? Can this happen?
Right. So just to distinguish something, if I wrong you and in a civil court, so okay, broadly we could have criminal law and we could have civil matters, which are matters between private people. So I go to doctor's hospital, he tells me a bad joke and I have a headache, right?
Right.
If I think that for some reason he's been negligent, I have a right to sue him personally. Okay. So that's a separate conversation.
Okay.
But if you offend something in the criminal books, that is a criminal offense. And for a criminal offense, actually, the state is the state or the republic against who comes in the might of the state against the offending party. And so in that case, what the state does is the state prosecutes. And in this particular case, we've seen the AG expressing interest and say that do an investigation and submit a docket to the AG's office, and then they will make a decision from there. So if the conversation is a question of a crime, sometimes you don't even need the person they've offended. The state can actually go against the person if the evidence is clear. Wow. But in most cases, you will need them to testify and to be prosecutor's witness. But you can be prosecuted for a crime if the evidence is clear, even without the offending party reporting in some sense.
Okay, great. Before I let you go, I want to find out, can schools in any way put up measures that would work hand in hand with the laws of the country, right? Set up rules, regulations that can work hand in hand with the laws of the nation to ensure that bullying or assault of any kind doesn't happen between students or colleagues or even teachers and students?
Right. This is a very interesting question for two reasons. The first one is, whilst a child is in training, the best interest of the child is usually what is sought, and the child may be put in discipline for purposes of his best interest. However, in the light of some developments, even corporal punishment and the idea that you're beating a child is deemed as far gone as a form of punishment. I remember when I was in SS, we had a chemistry teacher, and I don't know where he is, but maybe let me give him some fans. We just say Alaska, and when Alaska touches you, Alaska could make you miserable.
Wow.
You know, and when he punishes you, he can say weed to the ground to the toe. So like you can weed the whole park.
Wow.
Right. But now we have moved from a place where the conversations around discipline is very sketchy. I know that I went to St. James Seminary Secondary, and let nobody tell you it's the best school in Ghana. There's data to support that.
We are sorry.
He has data to support.
He came with facts.
There's full data to support that, right? Okay. It was a Catholic seminary.
Okay.
And so you had very little options to fool. Discipline was almost unthinkable. Okay. But most of my mates have turned out right. Well, you can say that whatever right may mean, because there was some discipline in a way that sometimes were to a fault. And so we cannot underestimate the power of discipline and what discipline can mean in the development of a child, particularly at the age where they need a lot of direction and correction, and to know that things have consequences, right? Because at a certain age, you think you can do anything and get away with it. But in structuring a society, people need to understand that there's a cause and effect. Whatever you do has a consequence. And so how do you then let a teenager or a young adult or somebody who is in development know that, yes, you have a right, but your right has consequences? That's where the balance between educationists and people who are education experts, and as you say, the law must find a way around. I know GES has a lot of interest in child education, but the law is the law, except you're less than 18. In which case, if this additional person is determined to be less than 18, trying him and sentencing is slightly different. It's what we call the juvenile justice system. There's a Juvenile Justice Act, which when I was young, we used to say in Kraboni school, you know, which sentencing is different, and how a child is treated whilst you're below 18 but above 12. When you commit an offense, how you're dealt with is slightly different from the general person. But I think that the law must be enforced, because when I haven't had the courage to watch the video to an end, right? It's just inhumane, and I just can't understand why anybody would do that. But in essence, we know all sorts of things happen, which says a lot about all of us. You know, I've been bullied. I've been bullied from childhood. I was always the youngest with the biggest mouth.
You don't look like someone who should be bullied at all.
Well, when I was young, I was pretty tiny, and I went to high school around 13 years. Oh. You know, so...
Were you tiny?
I was pretty tiny.
Okay.
You know, 13 years for any child is tiny. Okay. You know, and at that time, the average person in my class would be around, let's say, minimum 14, 15. Okay. So I was on the least 2 years younger than my mates. Okay. You know, and I still had the loudest mouth. And so they would beat you when they can. They would akrana they be all camera they, you know, harassed almost every time. Okay, so but I think that
Lawyer, I'm not going to cut you now. I'm just going to put a pin in that conversation. We're going to go for a very quick break. When we are back, we take it up from there and continue. Are you okay?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So, guys, we're going to go for a very quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back from the break. It's still the dish right here on MX24 TV. If you just tuned in, we are discussing bullying in school. And before the break, I was speaking to lawyer Yao Sompa on the line. So before I get him to go, I'm just going to wrap up with him. Hi, lawyer. Are you still there?
Yes, sir.
Great. So finally, I just want to find this out. In an instance where you get abused sexually in school, right? But then at a tender age, yeah? It could be by a student, it could be by a teacher or anything of the sort. And then years later, can you then, so after years, right, you realize that, okay, this thing that happened to me was wrong. I couldn't talk about it. Can you at this point decide that you're going to take the person on, provided they are still alive?
Right. So the first thing I would say, crime has no expiry date, right?
Okay.
And so there's nothing like statute of limitation for a crime. And so all of us should beware if you did something. And that's how come we've had in the Me Too, somebody will say 30 years ago, you know, that somebody did that to me, and then they are still found guilty for things they did 30 years ago. You know, so your question is defilement, if I hear it.
Yes,
and
please.
Defilement is, the law says, if you anybody less than 16 is incapable of consenting to sex. And so as a teacher, a lecturer of mine will say, if even they are 15 and have a day to their 16th birthday, and you have sex with them, irrespective of how much consent you thought they were giving you, it is a child less than 16. So any child in essence less than 16 having sex is being defiled, according to the law. If they can prove down the line that that teacher or that student had sex with me before I was 16, yes, the teacher can be, or the student can be found pretty hot. But the questions would come to questions of evidence now. So as we say in court, it's not just about saying it. You have to now prove it.
Okay.
And even normally rape for even adults, which is a very unfortunate crime, which I think is very inhumane, it's still very difficult to prosecute because usually it's between two parties. And it would usually be one party saying, well,
it happened,
they raped me. And the other party, if you even have somebody who is, they won't deny that they had sex with you, but they will just say there was consent. Because if you deny the sex, that is easy to prove, you know. But then the question is, the question of consent it should be very clear, and I don't think there's any ambiguity about consent. But unfortunately, it's one of the crimes that is very difficult because as a lady, if you say, well, I was raped, you must be able to prove it. And lawyers will cross-examine you. It can be pretty tough. So, and once you brought defilement, I think that everybody who is being through that deserves a lot of support, because I mean it's pretty inhumane, and for a child more so. So yes, that would be my response to your question. I hope it's useful.
So it's been great having you, but Amma has a question for you quickly so that we can move on.
Hi, lawyer. Actually,
I want the doctor to ask me a question.
Actually, you asked my question.
Oh, really?
Yes. And for me, it's personal. So it happened. It did happen to me, and I haven't had the courage to tell anybody. And I was about to ask you if I could take him on, and I know he's watching me right now, and I don't know what I can do about it. What can I do? Because it's definitely going to be his word against mine.
And I guess those are the real difficulties. It's really going to be your words against his. But I think having the courage to speak about it even now needs to be commended. And I think you should perhaps confront him first with it, if you can. If you were less than 16 or whatever age it is, rape or defilement is as ugly and inhumane as it gets. So I think you should bring it up to him, call him, and let him know. If he's watching you, as you said, maybe I don't have to say all the things, but maybe it would have been better if there could have been a way you could have collected evidence.
How?
Before he knew. You could have called him and recorded. You could have. You could have.
Hopefully he's not watching.
I don't have access to him. I don't have access to his. I don't have access to him. That's the thing.
I think if that is possible, then we can just find someone who knows him to bring it up to him or something. See how it goes. But yes. I believe
but let me also say this. Once I said record, in other sense, privacy is a big conversation. So unless it's a pure investigative work, but you could have been investigative about it in a way that you confront him. I mean, people who have done wrong and they know they've done wrong, even the worst of them, when you confront them, there is some humility that comes with it.
With it, right?
You know. And I really, really wish you well. I mean, that's hard as it gets. And I hope that you find some healing. Maybe you should write a book as well.
Oh, please, no, I won't.
Okay. So you came to throw shots. At this point, you're throwing stray bullets.
I got jokes too. I know you want to hide me, but I'm not.
Okay, lawyer, thank you so much. It's been insightful talking to you. So hopefully we get you the next time in the studio.
All right, thank you. It's been an honor being here, and I wish you well.
Thank you very much. So now back to the studio, and in a bit we'll be talking to Dr. Evelyn Roberts as well, who is the psychologist. So how do we, as parents, siblings, right, friends, notice when our children or our friends or siblings are being bullied? How do you spot someone who is being bullied? Obi?
You wouldn't know. You wouldn't know unless you are very cool with the person, unless the person is able to open up to you freely without judgment. Usually, when these things happen, when the bullying happens, sometimes it's so embarrassing. Sometimes what they put you through is very embarrassing. Like, for me, when I remember, like, there was a name I had in senior high school that I didn't even want, like. So the senior was talking to me. I think it was our second night in year 1. And then he was talking to me, and I couldn't hear him. And he was like, hey, yeah, now then, you're for man. Now, so me tea for. I said, "Can I me tea for?" And so now I started saying it, and I had to go around shouting throughout every dormitory. I just enter your room and I start shouting, "Me tea for, me tea for," and now it became my name.
Sorry.
So
they call you me tea for?
Yeah, like till now.
You should make a joke out of that.
I shouldn't.
Like, no content, it will be good.
Yeah.
You know, even your parents sometimes, or people randomly say, "Are they for?"
Yeah.
And I'll like we say,
or they don't have you going around telling
Even now they tell you, maybe there's a video that you see on social media where at childbirth, maybe the doctor mistakenly pulls the baby's neck, and then 15 years later, there's someone with all those things are bullying, right?
Yeah. I'm just saying that we need to be. You
never told anybody about Mitibo form?
No, even this is like the first time I'm saying it, like in the media space for.
Sorry.
And this is as bad as it gets. It's tough. You guys.
So sorry about that.
Really,
it's definitely going to be your name.
It's definitely going to be
Mitibo form.
I hope Clement or Inti are not watching this, because you know how they're going to grow you with that. Fortunately, we've been joined by the psychologist, and she's going to take this on for you, Obi. Dr. Evelyn, good evening to you. Good to have you once again.
Good to be here. Yeah, thank you very much.
Great. It's good you just came in at the right time. So Obi was just he was just sharing an experience from high school with us, where he was made to go from room to room shouting Mitibo form, and eventually became his name. Something of this sort is termed bullying, right? But then again, we can also attest to the fact that it is going to mess with him one way or the other, all through the years of school. The 4 years or 3 years, 3 years, right?
It was in SHS.
Okay, so 3 years, 4 years period. So even after school, you know, we have these friends who never forget anything. And even on your wedding day, they'll come and shout, Mitibo form.
It's okay, don't just mention it anymore.
Oh, sorry. Something of this sort. How does it affect a person's mental health?
I mean, bullying can affect one's self-esteem for one. I think usually that's one of the primary things. It affects their self-confidence. So if you are looking at that, sometimes it can even cause depression as well. And also, depending on what else is going on with them, it may even cause some anxiety and some stress.
Right.
So these are just like a few of the effects of bullying.
Okay, great. So I hope that helped.
Yeah, that's true.
Did it help?
Yeah, but I mean, the depression and the anxiety you go in, it's difficult to talk to somebody you can barely trust. And we don't have the system of, you know, this case, white kids can just say, and then the parents will say, let's go to therapy.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish
Africans,
I had that. I wish we had that growing up.
Right.
I wish we had a place where we could go vent and like pour, because there were lots of stuff that, per how we were brought up with our parents, you could hardly open up to even your parents.
Right.
You end up opening up to friends who can barely help you. You know, so these structures like the psychologists we have here, like these are the people that are professionals. Is it professionals?
Professionals.
Are professionals that you can talk to and you can open up to, and then you'll be okay. They can talk to you in a better sense. If I had that,
you would have been
probably
better.
I'll be president now. I know.
I don't know. I'm looking at your head right now, but Dr. Evelyn. So this is quite a deep and emotional bit. So Amma, who is seated in the studio for the first time in years, has opened up tonight that she was sexually abused by a senior who claimed to like her in high school when she was 14. Am I right?
Around that time, I was almost 15.
Okay, so yeah, between 14 and 15, right? And this is the very first time she's ever talking about it because she couldn't share it with anybody. For, of course, we know society would even criticize you and stigmatize you for it. Something of the sort. In as much as we wouldn't want to entirely base a conversation on it, how would you advise she goes about it? We just spoke to lawyer Sompa, who said she could even take the person on if she wants, but then she would have to have evidence. In a situation where it now becomes a back and forth about your word against hers and all of that, what can she do? How can she deal with this?
So it really is about kind of looking at how it is affecting you, and then really looking at if there's been some trauma and how the trauma is playing out now. Because usually with abuse, we know that there's some trauma that plays that happens even way after, really long after the trauma has actually happened. And so really talking to someone who is a professional and someone who can really look at how is it affecting her now, and then how she can overcome it, because it has some widespread effects. And sometimes also long after the trauma, there are triggers. So there are certain things that can remind you of the trauma, and then you get into the space where it's almost like the trauma is happening again. Okay. And that's what sometimes happens.
Okay, okay, great. So now, I don't know if that was helpful.
I'll talk to somebody then.
Okay. Okay, so Dr. Evelyn, now coming back to our conversation, bullying in schools, our system doesn't really support therapy. You hear us say that, oh, black people, what is therapy? Is new to us. Just like Obi said, if you want to vent, someone will tell you to go by the sea and scream your lungs out, or go and stand on a mountain and scream. But here is the case, we are one way or the other. People like you are trying to make it a norm, to open up to people, listen to people, let them come to you with their problems and all of that. What would you advise schools or even parents to do in instances where their wards or their students are being bullied? Can schools incorporate the whole therapy thing as a curriculum in the school, or should parents decide to outsource it for their wards after every term in school?
So when it comes to parents, parents have the responsibility of being open and really having that communication with their kids about bullying. Even if it's not something that has come up organically, this is something that they can just really just talk about. Because let's say we all know what has happened now at the school. So just having a conversation with your kid about bullying and what to do can be helpful. Another thing too with the schools is that schools are supposed to have school counselors. And so then that also becomes really helpful in that sense, where school counselors can also take it on and really help really help kids who have been bullied or who have any kind of mental and emotional problem. So schools also have to take it on. Schools have the responsibility of employing counselors who will be able to see to the mental and emotional, psychological needs
of the children.
Of their students. And some schools do have that, but unfortunately, not all schools do.
Okay, Dr. Evelyn, thank you so much. Today you couldn't join us early, but hopefully next week you'll be in the studio because I really need you here. And so thank you so much for making it for tonight's show as well. Thank you. And so back in the studio, ladies and gentlemen, our time is fast spent. So I would want to take your final words, any words of advice or even encouragement to victims of bullying before we leave.
Okay, so for me, after my experience, I'm a mother now. I have 2 children.
Okay.
Yes, and I think we the parents also have a part to play. Some of these children, like I'm saying, the school becomes an escape for them. It's not always for those who want to be bad boys, bad girls. For some people, that is where they get to feel like they are with people. At home, you see, it's like, at home, but I say, okay. I'm talking from my experience.
Okay.
When I went to school, so whenever I pona me kofia, until I had that experience, I always wanted to be in school because it was a whole number. I got friends. It was there that I could find people I could talk to, level with. At home, it's like others do this, do that. That's it. I can talk to nobody. But then we have a big family. We had a big family.
But you couldn't really connect.
No, you can't. I felt alone, even though I don't even literally sleep alone. We slept on a mat. We were 3, 4 siblings, but I felt alone.
Okay.
So our parents have a lot to do. So for me, when I got to school, I got exposed to all kinds of things, and I got curious. I tried some of them were enforced on me, and it led to a different kind of me, maybe not what I would have wanted to turn out to be. So we should try our best. It's hard to have an adolescent. I know that when we get to that stage, it's difficult. Okay. And as a parent, it might be difficult, but we have to try and get close to our children so that even if something happens to them, they can tell us.
Okay.
So they feel loved. When they feel love inside of them here, they don't want to go out looking for it, especially for the girls. They don't go looking at the wrong places.
Thank you very much. How about you, Obi, Dr. Obi?
I all my life I've hated bullies. I've been a very small boy, like growing up, and I realized that bullies are people who rub off their insecurities on you.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and so that was what I realized they were, and then that's how I was able to survive bullies, to understand them in that regard. But then I do hate it when other people take advantage of others by virtue of like how the strength they have, power they have, position and all. It's something I can barely tolerate.
Okay.
And so I'm all against bullies. But for this kid who got into this situation, I think, kids make mistakes. Mistakes do happen. Usually when crimes, things like that happen, we want to nail it so hard that it becomes, a deterrent to others. People not to engage in it. I'm just praying that we don't make it so bad that, he loses his direction in life, because he's just a young kid who made a mistake. Let's not try to kill an ant with a hammer. Okay. Yeah, you understand what I'm saying? Yeah.
Brilliant. All I would say is that everybody has a role. You, the parents, have a role to make sure that your children are brought up the right way and they know not to cause other people pain just to feel right about themselves. And you teachers are entrusted with our wards to make sure that you shaping them in the ways that we can't shape in them. And you, the child, you need to uphold the values that are being instilled in you at home. So to me, I believe everybody here has a role to play. You never know who's watching. Now the AG is interested in this case, and who knows what can become of this young man if he is found wanting. Just make sure that you're doing what you're supposed to do at the right time, at the right place, and show love to everybody around you. This has been an amazing episode on The Dish. My name is Oforiwaa. I was joined by Amma and also OB in the studio. And we had Dr. Evelyn and lawyer Sompa also via Zoom. Until same time Monday, have a great evening, stay blessed, and have a lovely, lovely week.